Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our special live coverage of the 2024 United States presidential elections. I'm your host, Yusuf Ibrahim. With the election day tomorrow, November the 5th, the world is closely watching what could be one of the most pivotal elections in recent U.S. history. Tonight, we will dive into the key aspects of this election, from its impact on global affairs to how the next U.S. president could reshape the country's security strategies, also both at home and abroad. Joining us today is Dr. Abdullah Al-Shami, the Director General of the Arab Planning Institute, who will guide us through the U.S. presidential elections process, including tackling potential return of Republican candidate and former U.S. President Donald Trump to the White House and the promises of Democratic candidate and U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris. We'll be back after this break shortly. Welcome back again, ladies and gentlemen. Joining me, and please join me in welcoming our guest for tonight, Dr. Abdullah Al-Shami, to discuss the outcome of this election that could affect the global affairs, regional security and domestic policies in the U.S. First of all, let's start with Dr. Abdullah. Dr. Abdullah, first of all, we'd like to thank you for joining us here on KTV tonight and to share with us your insightful information for these upcoming elections that will start tomorrow.
Well, first of all, thank you, Yusuf, and your colleagues in this program, and thanks for Kuwait TV too regarding this invitation. As you said, it's tough and pivotal. So yeah, this election is not like any other elections. It's like at the end of race for two parties which getting ages and get aged as well. Mm-hmm. So. If you see the candidates and the way that Kamala Harris has replaced the President Biden, mm-hmm. The way that Donald Trump has took the lead from his party, and all other candidates has been eliminated, that's still a story that it's a battle. It's not like a normal election. So the predictions is quite difficult actually to predict. Mm. And navigate between all the constituencies that happening in the voting in the United States. So let's see how can we analyze it tonight.
Hopefully, let's get deeply into the prediction later on throughout our show. But first, let's start with this. Let's talk about the outcome. The outcome of influencing U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East, particularly regarding Kuwait, especially this upcoming election.
Well, let's take it from the easy to the hard. Okay. Regarding to Kuwait is an ally, mm-hmm. And it's one of the main allies. Correct. For United States of America in the region. Mm-hmm. This is the first thing. We and them
are in the same boat.
Of course, and we agree on the macro issues almost 100%. The relation is quite high. There are some micro things that yes, we have the liberty actually to express and have some maneuvers inside it, mm-hmm. which is every country can do that. So in terms of Kuwait, I don't think there's going to be big changes or any radical changes that will affect us. And yet we actually worked with the Republican 4 years ago with Donald Trump, and 4 years and the current 4 years term with President Biden in two different parties, and no big changes has mm-hmm. been happened. However, in the Middle East, the challenge is so big, the conflict is getting heated, mm-hmm. And it's very complex. Mm-hmm. It's not easy actually to be solved, and that is going to be a very big challenge for both candidates. Correct. Not one of them, because Vice President Kamala Harris is already an acting president actually, mm-hmm. Because she has too many files with her. And Donald Trump has his view actually on the Middle East, mm-hmm. and on the other hand, his campaign actually has very good relationships with the Middle East as Correct. Well, regarding to the oil and gas sector and
other parts of the world, not just the Middle East as
well.
well.
Of course, but we're focusing now
on the Middle East
because of the question. Mm-hmm. So that's tell you there's something gonna happen when both of them gonna win. So we hope that those those results or the outcome of the election reduce the conflict and the tension in the Middle East.
Correct.
Because it's very heated now, and we need someone to cool it down.
Either candidate to cool down the.
Of course, it's not a demand. It's actually it becomes a needs now.
Correct.
Okay, so we need some cooling for the situation in the Middle East. The war that's happening in the heart of the Middle East is everybody's suffering, civilians, the humanitarian basis. So I think that should have a direct impact on that.
Dr. Abdullah, let's zoom out of the Middle East and come back to Kuwait. As you mentioned, that Kuwait is a very strong ally with the United States of America. Do we expect or anticipate any specific changes with the U.S.-Kuwait relations with either candidate's administration?
As I said, I don't
even
think,
if it's slight.
Maybe some on minor cases, okay. But at the end, both parties will gonna agree on a settlement or to have an opinion on one situation. So it won't be a big differences. That's for sure.
So it's going to be the same regardless.
Of course,
because the relationship.
I think that because we actually know how to.
We have seen it actually throughout the years. It's not going to affect anything within the relation. It's a very strong ally with Kuwait.
If you go 200 years ago,
yes,
or no, 126 years ago,
correct,
when Sheikh Mubarak actually started to be open with the superpowers. So we're following the same steps actually in terms of how we can deal with empires and superpowers. So this attitude, this pathway that has been started since early ages when the Kuwait has been established, that's tell you we have the experience in this. So from our party, I don't think we're going to have any issues.
The relation is going to be the same with either candidate. We wish the best for both and for the American citizens to choose wisely and who's going to be representing them for the next 4 years.
And for both national security countries, of course.
Correct.
The Americans are very rational in terms of when they deal with Kuwait. They are very rational. Right. They know that a Kuwaiti policy have a dignity, so they won't scratch this dignity at all.
But as you mentioned that if we refocus back onto the Middle East and the situation and things need to cool down, and it's a need, it's not a want, it must happen for a better world, let's say.
Of course.
Dr. Abdullah, let's move to the economic policy. How will each candidate approach each candidate's approach, how will it impact trade, let's say?
Well, that is $1 million question.
Yes.
Because I think this question actually can't be answered directly.
Correct.
Okay. Because
for what reason?
The balance of the trade in the world is changing. Okay. And the term that you're gonna apply or to deal with those changes, that needs to be very delicate. And if you analyze it, you need to be more delicate. Because one bad decision that will gonna explode the sector itself.
Correct.
And if you see the yield curve and the CPI in the United States specifically is quite high.
During this year, last year,
if
past 10 years.
No, we're gonna have it in the last 5 years.
Correct.
When the coronavirus has hit the world, so we can see that the chances and the odds that they're gonna have a decision that is not wise, it should be in the minimal rate. The inflation is so high, so this is gonna affect and hit the American economy and the global economy very hard. if you see, the Federal Reserve was very delicate actually in terms of tweaking the monetary policy.
Correct.
But yet, the commercial narratives is not under control yet. It needs a very delicate situation. It needs to be very wise because the China itself is getting more strong in terms of trade. Europe as a market is not lucrative as it used to be, and you have some issues here in the Middle East that affect also the demand and the supply. So yeah, it's a tough
decision, as you're mentioning.
It's a tough decision, and for both candidates, when they pick their cabinet, they should be very specific on the needs that they're gonna do in the 4 years.
I'm gonna get back
because if we have, and that's not a big if here, if we have any lockdown, or we have any
future lockdown, you mean like we had in the past during Corona
pandemic or something? Okay, if the situation in the Middle East, God forbid, gets escalated, if the Ukrainian war continued and escalated as well, and you can see there are some new boots in the ground in the Ukrainian
There is
war.
heat going on as we speak.
The heat is getting up, so with those elements, I think the formula is going to be very tight, and the maneuver itself, it's not easy, and that will make the economical decisions more harsh as well, on both ways. Maybe up to the up or down. So that doesn't matter. But I think the next president should be very selective.
I mean, after the pandemic that hit the world back in 2020, Corona, it has affected pretty much every single country worldwide.
Indeed.
But during our program, we're talking about the United States of America specifically, especially that the election is coming up tomorrow. Let's get back to
But there is a hint here.
A hint.
The American economy is the basket for the rest of the world in terms of economy.
So how will that be affected?
Well, the correlation is so high. Everybody is using the US dollar.
Yes. Okay? So the US dollar is related to every single trade worldwide.
So any decision that you're going to make is going to affect the US dollar ability.
It's going to affect every country that's affiliated with the US dollar.
And the correlation is so high, and if you go to the other side, we have the new giant is getting up, the BRICS system. So there are some competition actually happening in
between the currencies.
Of course, not the currencies, the big economies.
Big economies,
and the number of people who lives in those countries is so huge.
Correct.
Okay, we're talking about maybe 2/3 of the world in the BRICS agreement.
Correct.
So
main deals are going through those economies,
and too many settlements are actually happening between each parties. So it's not easy to have a decision now. You should be very careful.
Let's focus on the Federal Reserve. Are there going to be policies changed with or does each candidate have his own or her own decisions working with the Federal Reserve?
I don't think they have the liberty for that, because the Federal Reserve have
its own.
It's 100% independent. So politics, I don't think it's easy actually to affect their decisions, and they have their roadmap for fixing the monetary policy and to fix that. And I don't think there is any kind of president
that has
interfere with the decisions. Maybe they're gonna have side talks, but he can't influence those decisions.
Correct. Okay. Dr. Abdullah, let's take a quick break. Let's take a look at the following report and we'll get back to more questions. The 2024 U.S. presidential election is shaping up to be a significant event, with candidates representing a spectrum of political ideologies and priorities as the nation grapples with challenges ranging from economic recovery and healthcare to immigration and education as well. As such, the candidates are outlining their visions for the future. each championing distinct campaign goals, which former U.S. President and Republican candidate Donald Trump aims to revive his America First agenda, focusing on immigration reform, economic deregulation, and combating what he describes as radical leftist policies, all while energizing his base with a message of patriotism. In contrast, U.S. Vice President and Democratic candidate Kamala Harris is committed to advancing President Biden's legacy, prioritizing issues like climate change, healthcare expansion, and social justice, while emphasizing unity and inclusivity as core tenets of her campaign. And both candidates are positioning themselves to address the concerns of their respective supporters, setting the stage for a pivotal election. More details in this report.
As of 2024, the U.S. presidential race features several prominent candidates, each presenting distinct platforms and campaign goals. In this presidential election, former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris stand as prominent candidates, each representing vastly different visions for the country. Leading the Republican Party, Trump seeks to capitalize on his provisional presidency by re-establishing his America First platform. Central to his campaign are promises to tighten immigration controls, enhance national security, and revive the economy through tax cuts. His rhetoric focuses on challenging what he perceives as overreach from the political left, aiming to resonate with a base that patronizes traditional values and a strong national identity. Trump's campaign is heavily influenced by his past successes and the protest of his supporters, as he advocates for reducing the influence of big government, vowing to dismantle regulations that he claims stifle economic growth and innovation. Furthermore, Trump positions himself as a defender of free speech, pledging to combat perceived censorship in social media and mainstream media outlets. Whereas running for the Democrats' Party, current Vice President Kamala Harris, running for re-election alongside President Joe Biden, champions a progressive agenda that builds on their administration's accomplishments. Harris's campaign focuses on expanding access to health care, addressing climate change, and promoting social equity. She advocates for policies such as comprehensive approach to health care reform that includes protections for pre-existing conditions and support for mental health services. The current U.S. Vice President also emphasizes the importance of tackling systematic racism and economic inequality, aiming to create a more inclusive society through legislation that benefits marginalized communities. Harris's platform also highlights the need for gun control reforms and voter protection measures, reflecting her commitment to safeguarding democratic processes. Her campaign promotes unity and collaboration, seeking to bring together diverse voices to address the nation's challenges. By positioning herself as a champion of justice and equality, Harris aims to inspire voters who patronize progressive change and seek a future rooted in inclusivity and community. Together, the contrasting visions of Trump and Harris set the stage for a dynamic and pivotal election, reflecting the deep divisions and aspirations within the American electorate.
Ladies and gentlemen, joining us is political analyst and columnist Faisal Al-Shammari to focus on impact of U.S. presidential elections on the U.S. Gulf relations. Sir Faisal, from a Gulf perspective, what could the election of either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump mean for U.S. Relations with Gulf countries regarding security cooperation and economic ties?
Thank you for having me on your show. I believe that the first question is a very important question. And to answer this question, we have to take into account and consideration that we had 4 years of Donald Trump presidency, and we understand his approach very well. And we had 4 years of Biden administration with his vice president, Madam Kamala Harris. In that sense, it's very apparent which approach each administration will take. But I believe at the end of the day, the Gulf countries have the dynamic to deal with both parties. The Gulf countries have the dynamic economic and political ties with the United States of America that it could deal with the Kamala Harris administration or a Donald Trump administration. I believe that for the sake of the region, I think a Donald Trump presidency will be much better for the region and the world as a whole, because we had 4 years of stability, economic exchange. Even during COVID, the relationship among U.S. long-term allies such as the Gulf countries, Egypt and Japan, South Korea, and the UK prospered under his presidency. So in that sense, I think it's two distinct approaches when it comes to dealing with the Gulf countries. But I believe either Kamala Harris administration or Donald Trump administration, both of them will need the Gulf countries for U.S. foreign policy in the region. So I think we're in a crucial point of time that the Gulf countries, the relationship with the U.S. is mutual for both of them, is very important for both of them. In that sense, it doesn't matter who will be the president. The dynamic of the Gulf countries led by Saudi Arabia will determine what kind of relationship we'll have with the U.S. And we've seen this with the Biden administration and during his campaign, threatening to make Saudi Arabia a pariah. And eventually he came to Saudi Arabia and tried to reset the relationship with Saudi Arabia.
Also, Faisal, what are the key policies proposed by the two major candidates and how it might change the future of the United States of America in the next 4 years?
Both administrations will shape U.S. economic policies differently. They will have two different approaches in dealing with U.S. economy, and this will affect and will have a domino effect on the whole wide world. I believe that Ms. Kamala Harris will use economic policies based on progressive ideals, based on higher taxation, corporate and individual taxes. I believe that you will rely more on alternative energy sources, invest heavily in solar and wind power, support the transition to more climate-friendly energy sources. On the other hand, we had 4 years of Donald Trump presidency, and his approach was a very apparent America First approach, which is based on trickle-down economics, based on Reaganomics, Reagan principles in economics. Also going to support the oil industry within the United States. Will try to lower corporate taxes to attract businesses from all over the world to come back to America. Will support and give incentive to manufacturing. So there are two different approaches. One, the Donald Trump approach is based on economic realism. The Kamala Harris approach is based on idealism.
Faisal, before we get off here, do you foresee, the new U.S. administration shaping its approach to international conflicts, particularly the ongoing regional issues like those in Palestine and Lebanon?
I believe the third question is a very, very important question in regard of how each administration will tackle international conflicts, either in the Middle East or Europe. I believe that the Trump administration and President Trump will try to deliver in his campaign promises, which to end all conflict. We had We had a history of that during the Trump administration. No international new conflicts during his administration, using the thick stick approach, the Teddy Roosevelt approach, dealing with diplomacy based on strength. And we also had another 4 years of Kamala Harris and Biden administration, which is ignited conflict all over the region. In Ukraine, Russia invading Ukraine, the October 7 attacks, and the response from the state of Israel, which is used collective punishment for the Palestinian people in South Lebanon. And that approach, I believe that either Kamala Harris or Trump administration will try to end the conflict in the Middle East as soon as possible. I think currently the Biden administration does not have any leverage on Netanyahu or the occupying force in Israel. In that term, any president will win, will have leverage, and will have influence to stop the wars in the Middle East. These wars using collective punishment for the Palestinian people and destroying southern Lebanon is not acceptable worldwide. It's affecting the candidates within the United States, especially with minorities. So therefore, any candidates will reach the White House will try to stop the war in the Middle East.
Thank you, Faisal Al-Shamiri, political analyst and columnist, for your input. Dear viewers, we'll be back after this report with our U.S. correspondent, Dalia El-Komi.
The 2024 presidential contest speeds into its final weekend with Democrat Kamala Harris and Republican Donald Trump locked in a razor-thin contest. And while few voters might change their minds this late in a typical election, there is a sense that what happens in these final days could shift votes.
I voted, and I voted by mail. And I voted for Kamala Harris, and I voted for her because I feel that she's honest and she is for women's rights, and I feel that the economy is actually improved, and I think it's only going to get better with her at the top.
Harris and Trump are crisscrossing the country to rally voters in the states that matter most. They're trying, with varying degrees of success, to stay focused on a clear and concise closing message. Each side is investing massive resources to drive up turnout for the final early voting period.
Well, this is, in my opinion, and many in Europe, one of the most important elections in U.S. history. And in Europe, and I guess all over the world, we hope that you pick somebody who looks forward instead of backwards, that you choose democracy instead of some other dark way of ruling in the U.S.
The race between Harris and Trump is still too close to call, with only 2 days to go until Election Day. The two presidential candidates are sharply divided on the role the U.S. government should play in American lives and the world at large, and on issues from abortion rights to immigration to trade. The result on Election Day will come down to 7 swing states: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump have visited them the most. Together, these states are likely to deliver the Electoral College votes needed for the winning candidate to get a majority of 270.
Most recent polling analysis still shows an even tight race between Kamala Harris and ex-President Donald Trump in the 7 main battleground states. The tightly contested landscape means the race remains highly uncertain as the campaign enters its final hours. From Washington, this is Dalia El-Komi reporting for Kuwait Television.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to this live coverage for the U.S. 2024 presidential race with our guest, Dr. Abdullah Shami. Dr. Abdullah, we're going to move to the regional issues, how do you foresee the new U.S. Administration shaping its approach to international conflicts, particularly ongoing regional issues like the ones that are going in Palestine and Lebanon?
I think it needs a quick response. And it's not tomorrow, not today, yesterday. Because the humanitarian situation there is horrible. So we're not talking about politics or military machining or anything else. There is no liberty actually on this situation. We don't have the privilege of the time. Okay, there should be a direct let's say decision to stop this massacre that's happening to the innocent people there. Kids and women are killed every minute. So I think, in bold statement, this has been stopped, should be stopped, and this decision should be the fairest decision for any administration to stop this conflict, and let's do it on a political way. No need for more blood. I think, and both candidates actually has been hammered from that, because both of them went to Michigan and give some strong promises for the Arabic minority there, and Michigan itself is a swinging state. So the votes there are very, very important. It's pivotal for the race for both candidates, and they should fix that as soon as possible.
Dr. Abdullah, what role do you see U.S. diplomacy playing in resolving regional conflicts, especially post-election? You just mentioned that Michigan is a swing state, yes, and they have made strong promises to resolve these upcoming conflicts. Excuse me. And could this shift be depending on the administration's priorities? Are they their top priorities or least priorities?
I think it's one of the top 10 priorities in both candidate agendas. Each of them have a different scenario to end this, but it's top priority, because they give a very strong promises for the Arabic minority, where they vote in Michigan and other states as well. And if you see the movement in the universities, especially for the Generation Z, and it's big movements, and the public opinion is changing against Zionists and against those massacres, and they are saying we should stop war, and every corner, and that doesn't happen before. It's something new. So for the world actually to get involved in those conflicts, and every part of the world is screaming to stop this war.
Dr. Abdullah, we're going to take a quick break and get back to discussing different agendas from each candidate. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick look at this following report and get back to more questions. And now we're excited to have Aziz Fahmy, a political analyst, joining us all the way from Washington, D.C. to shed light on the importance of this election and its implications. Mr. Fahmy, thank you for being with us here today. Mr. Aziz, what are the key factors influencing voter sentiment in the latest opinion surveys as we approach the presidential elections, and what measures are being implemented to ensure the integrity and security of the election process?
This is a very important question, because everybody remember what happened in January 6, 2021, when Trump supporter invaded the Capitol Hill to try to stop the certification of the election results, which gave the victory to Biden. So right now, the authorities are trying to enhance public communication campaign to help the public to understand election procedures and spread knowledge about recent change in voting and voter registration procedures. The second is trying to deter violence against election officials and workers by prohibiting firearms at voting locations. Third, strengthening the protection for the election certification process, ensuring mail-in ballot can be processed prior to election day and implementing a strong protection for ballot drop boxes. Also, the authority have procedures to counter the spread of misinformation by countering artificial intelligence generated election-related content. All polls indicate that Trump is ahead of Harris when it gets to economy, which is one of the most important factors in this election. However, Harris was able to change that a little bit. So she used to be like 16 points behind. Now she's only 8 points behind. And the difference in the approaches of the two campaigns are very, very different. Trump concentrate on talking about tax cuts, but usually for the wealthy. Harris campaign is talking about tax cut for middle class and supporting middle class when they purchase a house or when they have first child. These kind of procedures to support the middle class.
That was Mr. Fahmy, political analyst, sharing his intriguing insights with us. Thank you, Mr. Fahmy. Swing states, also known as battleground states, are where voters are nearly evenly split between major political parties, making them critical in determining the outcome of U.S. presidential elections. In the 2024 election, states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, and Georgia as well are playing pivotal roles, as they have historically fluctuated between supporting Democratic and Republican candidates, and winning these states often requires candidates to appeal to a broad range of issues and voter demographics, from urban centers to rural areas. With the electoral margin potentially razor thin, both parties are investing heavily in these key states, recognizing that the path to 270 electoral votes will likely be determined by these crucial swing states. Here's more in the following report.
Democratic parties, the swinging between them remains clear in the swing states to decide the election results and declare the winner of the presidency. The victory of Kamala Harris or Donald Trump in the U.S. presidential election next November depends mainly on the outcome of the votes in these states. The swing states lack fixed loyalty to either political party in the national elections, as they stand as pivotal battlegrounds for presidential candidates. Polls show the support rates in the U.S. state for Biden, Trump, and Harris, and how they changed clearly when Harris entered the race and Biden withdrew. Trump was ahead of Biden until he withdrew from the presidential election, and Harris's entry into the election has turned the tables. Some see Trump as better equipped than Harris to address the issues they care about, mainly the economy and border security, while others see Harris as having a strong advantage in helping union workers. They are roughly evenly divided on who should run the White House, according to recent polls. Studying the historic convergence of swing state votes requires a careful approach to identify potential swing states in future elections. The forecasts are based on factors such as past election results, opinion polls, prevailing political trends, and various developments since the last election.
As we wrap up our discussion for tonight, we're joined once again with Dr. Abdullah Al-Shami to provide some final insights into the U.S. presidential election and its potential implications for Kuwait and the region. Dr. Abdullah, we're back to more questions, as we know that the studio is called on both of us, me and you. Our voices could be gone for a while. Dr. Abdullah, let's get back to the issue. The difference between the two candidates' policies internally, in your opinion, what are they?
Well, I think for the Republican candidate, Donald Trump, is more economical. And for Kamala Harris, more dominant. She want, and and the other party need or want to dominate all the policies and legislations regarding one direction, where the Republicans are more open and more economical. They want to get the American economy in the healthy issue or the healthy case, because now the American economy, forget about the numbers. Actually, if you go to the middle class, you can see that the majority of them are crippled economically. So most of them are on couches, actually trying to find their way to survive on daily basis, because of the economical hit that happens for them the past 4 years. The inflation is so high. The retailing sector is falling apart, and the taxation directly and indirectly are affecting the cost of living for each individual. The Republicans, they're gonna try to
work on these issues.
Well, re-engineering the foundations of the economy.
In what sense?
That's a good question. To be more productive and to maintain the balance between import and export. It's quite harsh that the balance is imbalanced for the Americans, and it's affecting them more and more. They have the upper hand in the last 40 years ago in terms of productivity. Now the productivity has shifted from the west to the east, and they're trying actually to just slow it down as much as they can to increase the productivity in all sectors. I don't mean in one sector, in all sectors, in agro, in trading, in logistics, in heavy productions, cars, you name it, oil and gas. While the Democrats actually are focusing more to dominate policies in terms of green energy, and trying to shift all those investment to go in one direction or two directions only, where the Republican more diversify in those terms, that will make the economy grow faster and healthier. You can grow, any economy can grow on two bases: healthy, in a healthy way, or on the steroids. So the steroids are faster, but very harmful, unhealthy, and very harmful for the internal economy. But if you go on the healthy issues and trying to put everything in the right direction,
it's going to take more time.
Of course, it's going to take more time, but it's more healthier. You can't grow muscles actually and stay on steroids for good. It's the same comparison.
And in your opinion, are those two decisions, I mean, each candidate has his own way. We're talking about import, export, and we're talking about environment and climate change.
We can't say the candidate. I can say it's the party itself.
It's the party itself, yes, not the candidate.
Because both parties actually consist of smaller parties inside.
Correct.
And there are lobbies.
But each candidate is representing the entire party.
Of course.
So, yes.
So each candidate actually representing the stronger lobby in their party. So also there are hidden battles between those parties. Not all policies are being agreed by all the members there. So that's why you can see, if in the Congress and the Senate, sometimes you see switching parties between the MPs or the congressmen or the senators. Sometimes they change.
Interesting fact. So they change parties based on decisions.
Of course,
whether they like it or not, or it's approved by their people or not.
Yeah, and it's not a solid voting inside the Senate, especially for the big cases. Sometimes you see one or two senates switching their vote against their party because of the battles that happening, and it's economical. Sometimes in terms of morality as well. Sometimes there are some cases has a huge amount of morality and ethics, and the senates or the congressmen, they gonna answer to their constituents, not the party itself. It's not easy. It's 50-50 or 60-40 balance, but sometimes it's changed. Yeah.
Dr. Abdullah, I want to go back to earlier in the show. Earlier in the show, you mentioned that this election is very hard to predict. It's harsh and it's still foggy. We can't see where the election is going to. Is that correct?
I'm gonna give you some statistics that that will turn your head about.
Okay.
The election will be on the 5th of November. Okay. And they predict that on 67% of the people who's gonna vote. This is the percentage of the voting. That means out of 246 or 47 million people, we're gonna have 161 or 162 will vote. We're already having, in the early voting, 64 million has been voted, which is almost 40%.
Which is a high number to previous years.
It is a scary number. It is a scary number because all the elections, they rely on the last week to change the swinging people who's gonna vote. If 40% has been already voted, so what are the chances that you're gonna change the minds? People has been directed,
adamant and set on who they're voting to, especially that early into the elections.
And that is a bold, it's a bold message for both parties. I don't know who's gonna win it, okay? But it's a bold statement that we made our decision.
And we are sticking and abiding by that decision.
Weeks ago, and they're gonna stick on that, and they will not change it. And they voted early, so they don't give any chance
to remove their votes. Or
65 million, according to
have already voted.
Florida University has already voted,
which is a huge number, statistically speaking.
It is a huge number, and it happens electronically and via the mail. So that raised big question marks and big concerns. What are the ages who voted already?
Do we have those
numbers?
No,
I don't have it. No,
okay.
we're going to see it after the election. But we don't know the ages. That's the first place. We don't know the ethnicity of that. Okay, yet the level of education, we don't know it, so we can't predict it.
We don't know the reason why they chose their candidate.
No, I mean why they chose it very early. Why they didn't stop to
rallies to go and see their agendas.
Of course, to the voting places and vote normally. Why they did it now and in this enormous number? That I think is going to be a turning point in a couple of days, and we're gonna see what's the result of that.
So hopefully we'll get answers for that in a couple more days. Dr. Abdullah, there's something happening with the voting waves, as you mentioned earlier off camera, but when we were talking, and you said that there's something remarkable going on.
Yeah, this is the percentage.
So this percentage.
Yeah, it's almost half of predicted voters has been already voted.
So we're gonna wait until tomorrow, let's say, to see the other half on their decision. Could we see more than 160 million people voting, let's say?
I think I'm skeptical regarding that. I don't think we're going to have more. I think the peak is going to 170, no more.
Well, we wish the best for both candidates, but I want to know on the first couple of days, either candidate, how is it going to be like for either candidate on their first couple of days in the White House?
I mean, you mean the first 100 days?
First 100 days, correct.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
That's going to be very dense because they have a big challenge to pick their cabinet at first, the chief of staff and other secretaries. Three main secretaries were gonna be very crucial. Foreign secretary. They need somebody with a very special skills. They're gonna have the trade secretary. He should be very clever and have a very good view and landscaping for all situations and scenarios. And the treasury. Those three positions is going to be
very important, crucial
for both of them. For both of them. Yet internally, it's going to be a big challenge as well.
In what sense?
In all senses, in terms of industrial sectors and industries, all the industries needs to be maintained.
You mean as in reforms, industrial
and
reforms,
and policies,
policy changes, and
yeah.
the increase of jobs?
In the past 4 years, the policies wasn't quite clear what's the direction of the economy is going. Now I think they need to address that as much as they can. The past 4 years has been dominated by the Federal Reserve decisions, but now the tide of the monetary policy is getting looser a little bit, so that can give the administration more liberty to anticipate their reviews, because with a very high interest rates, any commercial decisions is going to be very tight because the interest rate is so high.
So it's going to impact the global economy.
Of course, what's happened in the U.S. is directly have a waves on all directions for
everywhere,
the whole,
worldwide.
Yeah.
So the tax reform and trade agreements are very crucial and very important.
Oil prices, all the commodities will be affected. The transformation, the transportation sector, logistics, even the airplanes will get. We're seeing in the last 4 years.
Travel is going to increase.
I mean,
inflation
no,
is going to rise.
I mean, Boeing itself.
Yes, with what's going on, especially.
They are struggling, and there wasn't a rescue from anyone from the administration, the American administration. I think it's going to be must. It's a huge company, and it has many impacts. And Boeing is very important. Why? Because they have the civilian airplanes and the military. So
that's correct.
That will all are connected actually at some point. And that's going to be a big decision for both of them.
I mean, it's going to be tough decisions for both candidates. I want to shift away from the tax reforms and the industry. I want to talk about international aid and development programs, especially for the Middle East. Do you expect the new U.S. administration to either influence?
I think yes. I think they need.
Will it increase or decrease?
They need to lose a little bit of burdens that they had in the past year. Okay, the weight of those burdens is so high, and is affecting both of them internally and globally. I think Middle East countries need to elevate their demands and try to push as much as they can to get to resolve these issues as quick as possible. Because if we don't dissolve it and solve it in the next 3 months, I don't know.
Next 100 days.
I don't know where the situation will go, but it seems it's get escalated.
Dr. Abdullah, what do you think will be the most significant factor for Kuwait to consider when adapting to the new U.S. administration policies?
I think we have to agree with them on general agendas regarding first our main role in the Arabic world and the Middle East as a moderator, and I think we need to agree with them to have a pivotal role as well in terms of oil and gas and the industries related to that. I think we need to be with them and increase our role to give them a more realistic overview for the Middle East, so they can navigate their way to influence and solve all the issues and all the conflicts that are happening.
Dr. Abdullah, finally, for tonight, before we end this coverage, any last thoughts or key takeaways you would like to share regarding the U.S. election?
Good luck for both of them.
We hope the best for both candidates and for the American citizens as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us here, Dr. Abdullah. It's always a pleasure to have you on set with us.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was Dr. Abdullah Shami, the Director General of the Arab Planning Institute, sharing his insights on the upcoming U.S. presidential elections. And as we wrap up tonight's coverage, the presidential nominees race to reach the White House in the 2024 U.S. election with two very different visions on the line. The outcome will undoubtedly have lasting effects on global diplomacy, security, and domestic policies. Please join us again tomorrow as we continue to monitor the developments and results of the U.S. presidential elections. Once again, thank you for joining us and take care. And we wish the American citizens that they choose correctly.